Okay. So thank you all. Thank you for taking out time and then joining us. So we'll get started the sessions. So this session primarily we're going to talk about that how the entire workforce dynamics is changing in the BFSI and what do we mean by that, how the roles are getting transitions towards the digital and technology, right? Be it on the business role, be it on the product role, be it on the operations role, everything is transitioning, right? And especially because of the fintech coming, which is heavily driven through the technology, right? And that has huge influence on the BFSI. When you say BFSI, banks, NBFCs, and all the sort of the entity are getting influenced in their job expectations. So that's the entire agenda to look at that depth for next 40-45 minutes. Before that, okay, a quick intro from my side. Shashank Shekhar, and I head the consulting and the co-founder with the Digital Fifth. I come with a wide range of experience coming from L&D Infotech and then Wipro. We have been there and then joined in DCB Bank, and there I've been responsible for driving the digital banking, open banking, as well as also taking care of the infrastructure and the governance. I spent almost 8 years where there and handled multiple assignments. And then joined in Samir, who has started the Digital Fifth for fintech and digital consulting firm. So I joined him, and then we have been running together. Now coming to the Digital Fifth, Digital Fifth is now almost in the 6th years where that we have run the digital and fintech consulting firm. We reportedly focus on the BFSI into building on the business strategy, the digital strategy for the fintech and the banks and NBFCs. Just quick journey. We started in 2017. We started with our first masterclass in the fintech. I think we would be one of the first to start in the fintech masterclass, and we have been running that fintech masterclass for the last 5 years. Now that program has transitioned in 2021 with an executive program. It's a 4 months now transitioning to the 6 months long training programs, right? Don't want to take much time. We also expanded into the international market 2018, then continued in 2019, getting into the Middle East market, working with the multiple assignments across the globe. Okay. If you look at the customer presence, I think we have been working primarily in the Indian market, but also we have been working with some of the assignments in the Middle East and the Southeast Asia, and recently we also ventured into assignments in the Africa region, right? Especially on the East Africa. These are like broad clientele list that we have been working with from the banks to networks to the NBFCs to the fintechs to the bureaus and all sort of the entities that we have been lucky to work with. The customer has been putting a faith in us, and we've been working with them across different kind of assignment, be it on the consulting, be it on the partnership, be it on the training. That's also sort of the services that we have been working with these customers. What are the broad services? So we have mostly prime business line is the consulting. As I already told that we work in the digital advisory space, that building the digital strategy, building the digital journeys, building the digitizations of entire the business models, the tech architecture and everything, and then to working with the fintechs, helping them into building the product design, the go-to-market, technology architectures, everything's helping them into get the partners in the market. So that's in the consulting, and then partnership is another business line that's also overshoot from the consulting, where that many of the players are looking for the connects in the market, like say fintechs, maybe looking at the lending partners, right, or the card company looking for the card customers. So where that we try to help to bridge the gaps between the fintechs who are looking partners and the banks who are looking to explore the ties with these fintechs. So that's where that we come into place. Training is another our large service portfolio, where that we do both on the B2C and the B2B service line, where B2B is like where we work, train the product manager, the business guys at the banks. We would have taught at HSBC, Union Bank of India, DBS, Society Journal, Flipkart, and lots more other companies on the B2B training. And on the B2C, we run our 4 months executive training programs for the mid to senior professionals. That's our marquee product that's there. And we also help into the recruitment, so hiring of the senior professionals, be it on the product manager, product heads, technology heads. That's out of the rooms that we've been helping them. This is just broad. I don't want to get so digital advisory, fintech advisory. We also help into banks and the fintechs, helping them into security and compliance requirement. Open banking is another core huge service portfolio for us. And also we help work with the customers, helping on building a deep insight report in the market. Training, I already told. So we've been running the programs in open banking, digital lending, embedded finance, cybersecurity, digital banking, and all these things. Customers are already told about it. Almost wide range of 1,700 plus hours of the training we would have done, and more than 4,000 plus participants we would have trained in this last 5 years. Hiring, as I told you, we are working with these other customers, helping them to hire for some of the seniors, mid to senior level of the positions. So this was all. Now you will not hear anything about the discipline. We just get into the tech side of it. So BFSI is growing, right? It's on a year-on-year 27% of the growth that has been seen. And I think in the current situation, also, if you look at the BFSI, always comes out as green areas where that growth is pretty visible, right? With the loan books also getting, even though the economy may not be at the best of the level, but still the loan books is pretty stable. The deposits are increasing. So I think banking has been seeing in a lot of the tractions. And that's also leading into the continuously expanding the different teams' skills, be it on the business skills, like who can come and create a value, help them into building the strategy, monetization, build into the partnership, because today's business, if you look at it, is completely growing into kind of the collaborations mode, right? It's more like working together and creating and co-building business models. Be it to talk about the neo banking, you would have seen a classic example of Neo working with Equitas or Jupiter working with the Federal Bank, right? Marketing, P&L management. So these are the business skills are looking. Technology is definitely is a deep skills as being looked at it, where the technology specs you can write it for the different platforms. Drive the project management, software product management. So these are like analytics is another massive push in terms of the skill sets requirement. It can be seen that who can help into the building a strategy around data collections, analysis, critical thinking. So we'll continue to go into that. If you try to look at the fintech, so fintech says down this year has been subdued in terms of the funding, but if you look at the last year has been massive funding, and that still has to be used, right? That's like $7 billion, right? And plus $3 billion, like almost $10 billion. We are talking about like 80,000 of crore rupees already there in that segments, right? Already there in the market, and that's getting used. And where that's getting used, it's probably either building the tech stack or expanding into the business, like in terms of the growth and hiring, right? These are like critical expenditure happens. So that's where that is there. So now in one hand, you can look at that funding is not happening, but funding has already happened, and that funding is being used to scaling up the business, right? So why we are talking about that this session, because we see that there is a huge gap. When we interact with the customers, as we've seen that we are also into the hiring, so that gives us a very closer look at it, that what are the gaps are there. We are primarily helping these customers hiring onto the tech skills or the digital skills within the product management, within the business management, within the partnership kind of things. And that's a kind of a gap that we see almost like currently, if you look at it, the dark orange color, that's a current skill set is there in terms of the digital teams. But that's digital skills requirement is going to be completely increasing in terms of the like private public sector bank also be spending huge onto expanding their digital skill set within the organizations, right? And private is definitely continuously pushing very hard to continue to scale their digital team capabilities, like be it on the Axis or be it on the EU Small Finance Bank or say ICICI. They're ramping up their digital teams. And when you talk about the digital, it's not only the digital teams as a part of the core tech per se, but more from the product management, more from the relationship, more from the partnership perspective. So it's across the length and breadth, and we'll see subsequent slides that where the demands are coming with the capabilities of having the digital skills. So let's look at that, how the entire transitioning is happening. So if you try to look at that, there are roles which require a deep digital experience, these digital skills, right? That's kind of the thing, and that will continue to grow massive. Where that, like, look at the product managers. So people, the customers, the fintech banks, NBFCs are looking at the product management and deep digital skill sets to build those journeys, build those business models around that gold loan, BNPL, financial user, education loans, and all sort of things. But building pure play product management capability, but powered with the digital skill sets, right? So that customer the product manager come and decide that entire the digital journey, and that can't happen that unless until you come with very strong digital experience. You may not be doing the coding per se, right? But at least having a deep understanding that how the journeys can be digitized. Neo banking product management. Most of the banks, from the bank's perspective, trying to build a neo banking business within that, which can work within partnership with the fintechs and all this thing. We have seen recently a couple of success stories in terms of the neo working with Equitas or Federal, Jupiter or Freo working with the Federal, right? And as we know that many of the banks are exploring the neo banking, right? And the fintech side also, the fintech, many of the fintechs are trying to either build a neo bank business model or they're trying to transition toward building a new banking capabilities. And both the places you will require a product manager who brings that entire that APIs driven that banking product management, right? Then digital payments is I don't need to explain that. That's still digital payments is a digital driven payment structure. So you require a product manager with a very strong capability in the POS, payment gateway, payment aggregator, all to the cards. Cards is heavy expanding pretty well, big way, right? Then API banking, open banking from the bank's perspective, because banks are opening every services in terms of the APIs. With an explosion of the account aggregator and technology service provider coming into the business, more and more uses of and emergence of the APIs are coming. Banks are trying to scale up their APIs stack. So that's where you also require a strong digital capabilities, right? Rest of the other product also like the innovation technology is completely pure play digital. So this is very straightforward. This is digital, but where the things are changing is again in the mid space, that having a strong digital capability, but may not be having a deep, but at least having a good digital experience is required, good digital skills is required with a strong business capability. So this is quasi-digital, right? Digital plus business, that's where. And there the roles is also exploring and increasing into like primarily building a fintech partnership. So banks or NBFCs are looking at the relationship guys who can come and build a fintech relationship partnership, and that can happen. You can't build a fintech partnership unless until you have a good understanding of the technology, that how the fintech works together, right? Because when you're going to talk to fintech will talk technologies, right? They will talk business, but they will also talk banking in terms of the technology. You need to have that skill set that you can also talk their language. So that's when only you can build that all the strategic alliances partnership, right? And that's on the fintech also, fintech side also, they look at the bank partnership, right? The guys who can drive the banking partnership or the NBFC's partnership. So this is the role that's definitely is continue to increase and providing more career opportunities. This is the where that upper layer, which is like not completely digital, but we continue to see that it's getting impacted by digital in terms of the role reductions, cutting down of the jobs or streamlining those functions and all these things with combination of technologies and people, like branches roles. And branches, you will have the multiple roles, like because footfalls of the branches will continue to decrease. Most of the branches will try to convert themselves into more into the sales setup rather than the servicing setup or the acquisition setup, right? Because if you look at that, most of the digital bank platform today, they can do the acquisitions straight, right? Customer can download the app, be it on the Axis, ICICI, AU, or any other bank, and customer can onboard it themselves. So you don't require the branch setup to do that. Branch is more to drive the sales. Customer service executive, the retail sales, back office operations, and all these things. Lots of things are getting impacted from the technology. I'm not trying to say that these roles are going to go away in the sooner time period, but definitely the numbers is not increasing as proportionally the business is increasing, right? So earlier the two guys who can drive the business of like 10,000 crore, same the two guys can do that 20,000 crore of the business also they can support. So that's where the things are changing. And there are other application roles are also demand, which is very much tech driven, kind of the API banking head or the digital product manager, blockchain, data science, engineering. They are like pure play tech driven roles. That's very much in demand. And I tell you very interesting stuff. Like now the banks, so fintechs has already been hiring the guys from the outside of the market, right? They are not only looking at the guys coming from the completely bank's experience perspective. They are willing to hire the guys from the e-commerce companies. They are willing to hire from the aggregator side of the companies and all these things. At the same time, though, the banks is also trying. Banks also not restricting that only, okay, come and join as the API banking head only if you are worked in the banks. They are willing to experiment with bringing the guys from the different industry who can understand the technology well, right? Now let's look at that, how to accelerate your career growth. If you want to get into that, if you are a particularly, so any role that, especially I'm talking about the mid to senior kind of the role, if you look at it, right? What are the things that it requires, right? It requires your domain knowledge. It requires a P&L understanding, technologies like having the user experience, how the digital marketing can be done, the sales, the strategy part is required. I'm talking about the mid to senior and leadership kind of the role, right? The compliance aspects, compliance is very critical, and analytics, analytical skills has to be required. Now, if you want to scale in that particular role, like say, for example, you are in product, okay, any kind of the roles that you are holding in the product, be it the product lead or the product head or anything. What are the things from required? Like domain knowledge has to be on a very high, right? P&L understanding, because for any particular product that you need to define that what is your P&L, what kind of the revenue that you are generating for that particular product, right? But if you look at that, this is where the things are changing. Like now you need to have a good technology understanding, right? It's not that, okay, product management, like say, for example, your deposits, saving deposits, or say, for example, term deposits, or say, for example, personal loan, and say that you don't understand technology. You will require an understanding of technology. User experience, because everything is changing on the user experience. How you onboard the customer, how do you provide the servicing, how you nudge the customers to do more. That's where the entire user experience comes. The digital marketing, everything is getting acquired digitally, right? You want customer to download your platforms. You want the customer to get registered on the platforms and complete the journey. For that, you need to get those customers on the platform, right? Definitely, since you are a product guy, you need to drive the sales strategy. Product, you can't run the product and grow the product business unless until you drive and have a very strong strategy understanding. Compliance, RBI is regular, BFSI is heavily regulated industry, and even in the last couple of years, you will see RBI has been predominantly getting more compliance oriented, pushing for more compliance. So compliance is there. Analytics, definitely you need to have the analytics, because how your data is working, what kind of the customers is going for your product, where which reasons the product is not working, where the dropouts are happening, like why the dropouts are happening. Those are the things you need to analyze. You can't be waiting for somebody else to give you an answer, right? For that, you also require a deep analytics experience. So that's where the things are changing, like the technology skills is required, digital marketing skills are required, the UX skills are required, the compliance skills is required, the analytics. So these are the additional skills that you have to build as a product guys that you are there, right? The tech definitely, tech profiles is also transitioning, right? Earlier, one where there's that, okay, you are a tech guy, and if you don't have a domain understanding, it's done, right? Okay, you can still manage, but today's, especially in the leadership role, people are expecting, because for example, you have got a partnership with the fintech, and you may be front lending the partnership with the particular fintech. If you're not going to talk about the language of the fintechs, which will continue to going to talk about the business and technologies. So if you are representing the bank, and if you are going to only talk about the technology, I have the API, and APIs, you can't talk APIs in the isolations from the business. What does APIs does? APIs are like primarily like for saving accounts or the term deposits or for the loans. So you need to have domain expertise. P&L, okay, 50-50 kind of things. You need to know that, especially in the leadership position, that what is the organization P&L, how the P&L works, and from the P&L, you try to look at that, how you can improve the bottom lines, how you can improve the cost to income ratio, where that you can hit that cost with the help of the technology. If you have a good understanding of P&L, you can contribute to that directions, right? Since it's a technology role, you definitely have to have a very strong technology skills. The UX, as I said, for the product, the way it applies from the technology. If you are building a mobile banking, you can't build a mobile banking only from the tech perspective that, okay, these are the features are there in the backend, I'll provide these APIs, customer will be able to do that. No. You will have to start thinking from the customer experience perspective, and that's where that fintechs are taking an edge on that, right? And fintechs, when the Neo, let's say for example, Neo is trying to build a neobank platforms, and their tech teams completely look from the better UX experience, and that's where you will find that neobanks platforms will be much deeper in terms of the customer experience as compared to the most of the banks in the industry. The digital marketing, sales, and all these things may require compliance. Yes, compliance has to be very strong, because other technologies, when you're building the platforms, you have to make sure that all the compliance requirements are handled technologically, right? So technology is supporting the compliance rather than leaving in the individual hands or the processes to ensure the compliance. If you are able to build a tech structure which can take care of the majority of the compliance required, it adds to the power, right? Now, this is where that things are changing also massively, like operations, right? Operations also, domain knowledge is required, PNL is required, but you need to start getting some good understanding of the technology. Like say, for example, most of the operations, RPA tools are getting deployed. Many of you may not be aware the RPA is a robotic process automation, right? Which primarily helps us to automate any kind of the routine jobs, like say, for example, reconciliations, or maybe filing of certain records, right, or account closures. These are like routine activities, right? And sometimes it's very difficult to automate that. These are the activities you require support of some kind of the tools to automate that. Now, if you're a part of the organizations, if you want to contribute, you definitely have to support the implementation of such kind of the tools. And if you don't have an understanding, you may not be able to do a good job into the implementation of those platforms. So it's a partial good understanding of the tech and how it's going to work is going to help, and also going to make sure that you are not on the other side of the impact, right? Then bit on the other side of the experience, because it's everything is completely correlated, right? You can't work in the isolation. Operations teams, the majority is heavily responsible for the compliance from the backend perspective. So compliance and experience is required. And the same story goes with the sales. So there's like a couple of roles that we try to look at from our experience and discussion with the various stakeholders in the market. What are they looking for into the different roles and all this thing? And that's where we try to create this matrix. Okay. So before I go into further, I'll take a pause and see if any other questions are there. Is there any questions anybody want to pick up? Happy to take those questions. This is just a very generic topic, right? This like impacts everyone, wherever the position that you are into, whatever the role that you are into, that it affects, right? Career progression, the career change, everything impact. So happy to pick up any questions which are there. Okay, if not, have your question. If you want to put in the chat, please put in the chat, and then I'll try to pick up whenever I take an opportunities, right? Now, we have been spoken about, right? Like how the different roles are getting impacted, what are the different dynamics is required into different kind of the roles, be it on the product and all these things. But when you try to move and try to skills yourself from the digitally, right? So that you are relevant to your current roles, or maybe you try to transitions to the role which is like critical to the bank's growth and perspectives, and which is gonna be there in the futures. Like so we're talking about the pure digital or the quasi digital. Like these are the roles growing, and if you are into the other side of the circle, and if you want to move into that particular circle, what are the things that you need to have that? So these are like so first thing, very critical, that you need to have a very digital perspective. And when you talk about the digital perspective, you need to start looking into solutioning that how things can get solved digitally, right? It's not only about the plugging on the some of the software that to make the things happen. It's like entirety, like say, for example, customer journey, how the customer gets onboarded without any frictions. You're able to onboard the customers. How do you do the outreach in the market with the digitals? How do you do the servicing with the digital approach? So that's where the digital perspective is very critical. And when you start talking about the digital perspective, what are the different tools and technologies are available which make the things easier to work, right? API understanding. I think today's world, if you are into the BFSI segments, you want to be completely relevant for the futures in next mid to long-term kind of things. I think it's high time that get a very strong, deep understanding of the APIs. If some of you are not aware of the APIs, I'll try to define in 30 seconds. So APIs are nothing but a piece of software code which allow the two applications to talk to each other, right? That's a very straight, simple definition. But let's try to understand more deeper with a common example. Like, for example, you go to the restaurant. and you want to order any food in the kitchens, you don't go directly and order the food in the kitchens. You give it an order to the waiter, right? And waiter picks up your orders and then goes to the kitchen, and cook prepares the food, and the same waiter brings the food back to you, right? Waiter is actually acting like an APIs, right? The same way any application wants to communicate to other applications and want certain information, it will put a request, and the counterparty application will give it back the response. Now, this is a request response mechanism being taken care by the APIs. For the data exchange which happen, you need to have a very strong API, because you look at today entire the Uber, if you took like the example of Uber, Swiggy's, of the Amazon, everything is working around the APIs, right? You pick up any banking app, you pick up any fintech apps, it works partially or the fully on the APIs. So how the digital journeys are getting built, products are getting built, APIs understanding is very much required. GTM strategy, like how do you build a go-to-market strategy? If you're building a product, if you're building in a startup, fintech and all this, you need to have a very strong skills understanding to visualize and build that GTM structure. Customer engagement. You don't want to have a one-time customer engagement, like how you're going to onboard the customer. Try to remove the frictions. When customer comes on board, what are the things he's looking for? Like keep on figuring it out. And as soon as whatever he requires, you're able to provide the services to him. You're completely engaged on the customers and digitally, right? You may not have opportunity to meet that customers in person, because today the world is evolving where the things are getting completely delivered and managed through the digital. It's very critical that you have the skills to figure it out, that how you're going to engage with that customers, right? And today's customers, the loyalty is very minimal side, right? The banks still will continue to see loss of the loyalty, but in terms of the, like, for example, today, if you're finding a difficulty to order in Swiggy, you will move to Zomato and immediately you give an order, right? Or if you're trying to order something on Amazon, if you don't find it, you will try to go into the Flipkart. You keep on shuffling, right? It's very important that you have a very strong customer engagement skills with you. Then business model, definitely you need to have the strong understanding, the techno-functional and technical knowledge, it's required. And the journeys, right? Journeys for new to bank customer or new to the company customers or existing customers. Everybody keeps on buying new products or the other product. For everything, you need to figure it out how the journeys are being managed, right? So these are some of the traits that you will require. Now I'll just try to look at, let's say typical, some of these domains are there in the lending, and I'll try to look at one or two where that how the skills are required, what are the different skills required. Like, for example, you want to build an unsecured lending, be it you want to go as a product manager, or be it you want to go into the fintech who is providing an unsecured lending. What are the things is required? What kind of skill set that you need to work upon or you need to enhance? Now look at the unsecured lending, right? Unsecured lending primarily where that customers are given loans without any collateral, right? Credit card is a classic example, or a personal loan is a classic example where that lenders doesn't hold any kind of the collaterals, right? And these loans are given traditionally, these loans are given based on the bureau's score, your bank statement, your salary statements, and all this thing. But things are slowly moving where that alternate set of the data is like your SMS records, your spending patterns, and the utility bill payments and various other data are being used to analyze whether that you can be given loans and all this thing or not. Now look at that. Definitely you require a strong unsecured lending experience because that's the core domain that we are talking about. But also you need to understanding of the India stack and the ecosystem. When you talk about India stack, that how you can do that onboarding through using the Aadhaar authentication, how you can sign the contract with the e-sign, you need to have understanding of the e-sign. How do you do the collections of that EMIs through the e-natch mechanisms? What are the different e-natch mechanisms are there, like e-mandate and all these things are there? You need to have the understanding of that thing. And not only understanding in terms of the fundamentals and the concept, but the working models. Who provide the solutions? What kind of integration? Because like something of e-sign, it's easy to say that it can be done through the Aadhaar. But how do you plug in the journeys? That's very critical, right? So India stack and ecosystems, underwriting, yes, it's a lending. You need to have understanding of underwriting, and not only the underwriting from the underwriting perspective, but also you need to figure it out that how you can do the underwriting digitally on fly when the customer comes on board. Like today, you would have seen the various BNPL kind of product like buy now, pay later, which is again unsecured lending. But how do the entire unsecured lending in terms of the BNPL gets done on fly? Because somebody has designed that entire the underlying underwriting logic based on that what data that need to be collected, what kind of algorithm that need to be written to filter it out, that to whom loan to be given and all these things. And those need to be built into that platform. And the platforms are also getting evolved with whether you're talking about the loan origination system or the business rule engine system. You need to have the understanding on those platforms also. So underwriting, surely payment and collection, I say that ENACH. ENACH is one mechanism. What are the other mechanisms where that you can do the recurring collections, be it on the UPI mandate or like say, any other credit card, because now you can do the credit card also collection. So what are the payment and collection mechanisms are there? NPA management, how you do the monitoring of the collections, like how do you figure it out? Sorry. Insurance and the co-lending, like for example, in case if you're planning to work with the NBFCs and certain loans which is of the higher amount and you want a co-lending partner that the loan can be given by the two partners, come together and then give the loans, then you definitely require a good understanding that how the entire co-lending model works. RBI has already given very specified guidelines on the co-lendings, right? So co-lending understanding and the securitizations in case if this need to be go for the securitizations. So that's when these are the skills that need to be required. You need to have the when you want to have a role to play in as a product manager or building a business for the unsecured lending, right? I'll just see. Yeah. Okay. That's other than the embedded finance. So how many of you are aware of the embedded finance? I'm not sure, but look at that. Embedded finance is becoming a major business line, right? What is embedded finance? Embedded finance is the classic example where the non-financial companies like Uber, Swiggy, Amazon of the world, which are non-financial companies who are providing something else as a service and able to add the financials a component to their platforms, like say become Ola Postpaid. I think majority you would have used the Ola Postpaid. Ola is a taxi aggregator, but Ola Postpaid is a financial product, right? Now the financial product has been built on the Ola. That's an example of the embedded finance. As a part of the digital FINTECH programs, we do executive programs where we go deep into the embedded finance, where the multiple hours of the sessions are being taken on the embedded finance. And also we keep on coming on the various programs on the embedded finance that you can refer to. So I can't take too much of that depth of the session. But again, here you look at that embedded finance product, it is unsecured. You need to have understanding on secured, and most of these features that we are looking that you will require an understanding. Government initiative. I'm sure you would have heard about open network for the digital commerce like ONDC, which is again emerging as a government initiative. Open credit enablement network. You need to have an understanding of these frameworks, that how these frameworks you can use when you are having a product manager and when you're building a business model around it, right? Okay, so this we have been talking about very specifically to how the things are changing in particular product domains and what are the skills that are required. Now, say for example, you are into different skills and different roles, and then product management is becoming a very critical, demanding roles because and it's salary. It's a heavily salary-driven role, right? Product managers are getting paid pretty well in the industry, be it on the bank side, be it on the NBFCs, be it on the fintech side, right? And say for example, you're transitioning. One hand, you can definitely go back on the previous slides that I was talking about, that building the digital skills, you can definitely enhance scale in your current role. But in case if you want to pivot, be it from the tech or sales roles or the ops, you can do that, right? Because these roles have that kind of a sufficient skills which required for you to build a product management, but you will require to plug in certain additional components that you can use to become a good product manager, right? And these are like salary skills move from the product management at the different layers, right? So till the time it can go to chief product officers, right? And banks are the fintechs, everybody required a product manager and multiple product manager, and they require the digital product manager, right? Today's gone the days that they were looking at the POP saving deposits or the deposits product manager, but they are looking at the product manager who can digitally savvy, right? for certain example, like what kind of product managers typically look like. So if you're a B2B company, like FINTECH, Nalito, these are like technology products, right? Who are providing that, these technology companies are providing the tech products in the market. While you have the B2C, like Fed Mobile or the AU0101, or say, for example, I Mobile Pay, these are like products, right? So B2C, or the partner product like Decentro and all these things, which are providing in partnership with the banks and all these things, are providing different kind of the APIs or the digital products to the market, and primarily to the B2B kind of things. So that's a product manager. Again, this is the session not on the product management, but idea is to give you an insight that the product management ecosystem is evolving. Okay, we have a very in-depth digital product management class in our executive training programs, and where that industry leaders who have built a strong digital product, they come and talk about beat on the every aspect within the digital product manager to guide you to make them better digital product managers. What kind of other product, from the other perspective, you try to look at what are the other product managers. One is the different technologies, like say, mobile banking. You're building a mobile banking, you're building an internet banking. So that's where that you will be driving as a product manager, right? Business product manager, personal loans, BNPL, cards, like these are the business product manager. There are specifically growth product managers that those have a pure mandate as to drive the growth engines within the organizations, right? UI UX, now the roles are getting divided, that their job is purely to look at the different products, different the business aspect, and try to build up the UI UX, data analytics, marketing. So these are the different product managers roles are evolving. And who can be? I already told that within tech, sales, and operations that you can pivot, but these are like straight role which can go and fit into the product management by building those additional set of the skills, like user experience, because they understand the journey, right? Information architect, they know how the entire data flow happens for each of the different banking products, be it on the deposits, liabilities, trade finance, the cards, and everything. Business analysts, by virtue of understanding and doing the analysis for the business product development and all this thing, they understand that product features, capabilities, the journey, issues, compliance, challenges, and all this thing, because they capture the requirement and go and build the platform development, right? The developer, the marketing professional, operations guy, I think operations guys undermine themselves, but they have a very strong and deep product understanding. They may have a challenge on the communication, they may not have a challenge on the technology, but they understand the product, their nuances, their issues, the deviations, the exceptions much better than any good product manager also will know. They are definitely best suited to become a product manager. The compliance guys, again, the very similar way. So they also understand that how the product to not to make work. And for that, they understand that what are the different regulatory requirements are there, which can become a hindrance to the product. When they come other side, they can look from that experience perspective. So compliance and sales. So these are like typical roles who can go and become a digital project manager. Okay, so we have spoken about now how to do that. This is like just an example I'm trying to showcase. Like, say, for example, you are tech and you want to become a product. What are the additional things that you need to build into your skill set that you can do that? Like, say, for example, you need to build an add to the domain knowledge. So you may have a very strong understanding of the APIs and everything, but you don't understand how the lending works, how the lending product works, like how the card in there, the things work, how the underwriting works. So you need to have the domain knowledge. Sales, how the product sales happen, right? Because product managers, one of the key requirement is to make sure that you push the products in the market, right? P&L, as a product manager, you need to build a responsible to P&L for that particular product. So in terms of the revenue, in terms of the expenses, in terms of the cost and every element. So have a pretty good understanding of the P&L. Strategy, you need to have how the strategy work for that particular product. How do you push the product into market? How do you scale the product in the market? You need to have the kind of the strategic understanding. Digital marketing, absolutely, because now you are going to acquire the customers digitally. You have not ever been involved into acquisition because you are mostly in the back room building the tech stack. But now you're front and you not have to have a responsibility to get the leads. Then only the sales will happen. How are you going to get the deals? How do you going to make sure that customer is aware of the product that you are building? Might I just see the people are waiting in the room? So yeah. Okay, and compliance very strongly, right? As a tech, when you're trying to move in the product managers are primarily also been responsible to ensure that all the compliance requirement taken care. Like, say, for example, you're building the journeys, you need to know the KYC requirement. Like, what are the things how you can do the KYC in terms of the identity verification, in terms of the address verification. What are the different exceptions can be taken care? If it's an SME or MSME based product, then more compliance requirements become complicated. So you need to have a good understanding of compliance. If you want to become an ops to product, domain knowledge, definitely you will have a good understanding, but you need to get a very strong understanding of the technology. I'm not saying you need to become a developer, right? Or you need to become an architect, but you need to have an understanding of how the particular technology works, how the API works, what it leads to, how the loan origination system works, how does it leads to. Like, those are the things, technology understanding, you need to have that. And rest of the other things also applies, PNL, strategy, UX, analytics, sales. These are also skills are required. Again, from the sales to product, get now product management where you could, when you are selling, you may just need to know the features, right? And that's good enough for you. But now when you're going to do the product, you need to build the product. So you need to know all the nuances of the business. Then only you can build the product, be it on the deposits and lending or the cards or the trade finance or anything, right? So get a good understanding of the domain, compliance, because normally sales, you never bothered about that, how to ensure that the compliance and all this thing. Your job is to get the customer. But now, since you're a product manager, you need to understand the KYC, like be it on the KYC, AML, or rest of the other things, right? So compliance understanding. So that's where there. I'll take again pause, and mostly I try to give you a perspective that how things are changing, how the different, how you can pivot, and to pivot, what are the things are required. And I take a pause if any other questions are there. Okay, guys, Matri has given a feedback form in the chat. It will be very helpful that if you share your feedback of the sessions and any other information is required, please do feedback, share your feedback with us, right? Matri, can you just put that feedback form in the chat box? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I already spoken about what are the different traits are required, but these are like typically when we go and do a hiring in the market, and where, for example, we are trying to hire for any digital lending, right? What are the expectation has been set from the customer, like lending goals, product innovation experience has to be there, right? Compliance platforms. I think most of the things we have spoken about, these are like the skill sets are required. Partnership, again, it's becoming one of the major role demand in the market. Like banks are looking for the partnership guys. Your fintechs are looking for partnership, and it's all kind of strategy, business partnership, relationship, marketing, everything. These are like typically skill sets are required. Okay, now come back to so the core, right? So this is like primarily how this entire that skill set dynamics are changing in the BFSI segment, and where that the digital phase is trying to bridge the gaps and help that skill sets for the participants to professionals to bridge those gaps. So for that, only that we launched the executive programs in the fintech, open banking and financial blockchain. That's a program that we do. We already executed almost total of the 4 executive programs. We were touched more than almost 200 professionals in the market. And how this program helps? We looked at the gaps, like look at that. If you want to understand the domain knowledge, like for example, you are a tech guy and you want a domain knowledge. So we have a session like the fintech, digital payments, open banking, digital lending, where that we try to teach deeper the domain experience, like digital lending. You will get to know that how the personal loan works, how the MSME loans work, how the credit card works. And not only that, the credit card as a fundamental, but that including journeys, the underwriting, the compliance issues, everything. The payments, how the BNPL works, how the UPI works, how the POS business works, how the payment gateway business works. Everything's like how the cross-border remittances work. Everything you try to understand that. So that's where we try to push the compliance and strategy and all these things. Like, for example, open banking, digital. So how do you go about the building the digital strategy for the banks, right? So those are the experience knowledge that we try to plug into those modules. If you're a product guys, technologies, definitely most of the sessions will heavily driven to APIs. We'll get to have a deeper understanding of APIs, right? And the India stack and all the other sort of the ecosystems requirement that required. But we go deeper into the tech also, like artificial intelligence, the blockchain, how the CBDC is working, right? And the skill set on the digital marketing and the sales and the UX you want to plug in. Then strong sessions of the product management, like where the teacher how do you build the product, right? What kind of the customer engagement structure that need to be there? What should be the go-to-market strategy? How do you monitor the product performance? Everything is there, including then next set of module is setting up a startup. How do you go and build a startup, right? How do you get your business idea? How do you validate your business idea? How do you build your organization structure, technology models, revenue structure, the PNL, everything that you try to understand, you will get to know within the setting of the startup. And these are all these modules are there where that you try to understand the technologies, you understand the domain knowledge, but the capsule project where that you go and start applying those knowledge. Let's say, for example, current the programs is going where the teams are trying to build the capsule project on building a business, right? They are building a new fintech and they're trying to work together, 6 or 7 guys, 10 guys, and try to create a new business and trying to apply that all the knowledge that they would have got gathered in the last 4 months, like domain knowledge, the compliance, the tech strategy, and everything that, and then run that programs project under the capsule projects. So this is our program, very deep into that all these business domains that there. Other additional that so primarily all the domains that we have spoken about, fintech, digital payments, digital open banking, digital lending. We also added that specialization for the digital banking. Like, for example, you understood that fintech, open banking, and everything, the core domains which are there as a part of the programs. Then you want to understand that specializations, you want to go deeper into that digital banking, you want to deeper into the AI/ML, like how the analytics works, what are the different use cases, financial blockchain, how the blockchain works, what are the business model getting called, CBDC, like different use cases. Then you can also opt for the specialization, or you can opt for the entire product as a single component, like all the base modules as well as the specialization. You can do that. They are like interactive sessions, live sessions, and plus recorded sessions. But the live sessions are being driven through the mentors. So me and Samir primarily come and teach, but also we get the industry expert in terms of the fintech founders. Like, say, for example, neo banking. We are talking about. We had earlier the Vinay Bagri coming from the neo, and he's talking about that how he built that entire the neo bank. Okay, or the lendings. Like we'll get say, for example, founder from the slides, and Mahima comes and talks about that how they build that entire BNPL products and different dynamics. Digital banking, we'll try to get somebody from the Yes Bank or the Axis. They have come, Axis Bank's Chief Digital Officer Samir Shetty. He comes and talking about that how the digital banking has been built. So these are the guys who have been building and then creating the solutions within their enterprise. They come and talk about it. So that's probably gives you a much deeper understanding on the ground reality, right? Rather than just having a very theoretical concept, more like an academic structure, right? So that's their online live session and their recorded session that you can go through at your own time. Typically, case studies based approach, capstone projects, the assessments are the regular intervals. Participant workshops, lots of the workshops are created among the teams to build a different business model. So there are different things are there. Details are there in the feedback form. Also, you will find that in case you are interested, please provide your information. Team will get in touch with you. Team will walk you through the detailed understanding. Yeah. So this is there. Any other details you can figure it out. You can reach out to Srikanth, right? So that's all. That's all from my side, guys. Happy to pick up any questions. Any inputs are there. Any question, guys? Any inputs? Happy to pick up. Happy to respond. But please do share your feedback. Thank you, Siddharth, for your feedback. It's really highly appreciated. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Anand. I'm not sure you are there or not there. I think it just dropped out.
Yes, Shashank, I'm there.
Good to see you.
Wonderful session.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you.
Covered a lot of tangents, dimensions around the transformation towards the product manager, which is the most buzzing career word in the current scenario. All the companies are like seeking for these kind of setups. Wonderfully covered.
True, because you're on the ground, you are seeing that how the things are changing.
Yes. Actually.
Any input, guys, any feedback or anything, so happy to pick it up.
Yeah, good evening, Shashank. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Srinivas here.
Yes, Srinivas,
Informative and insightful session indeed. Of course, you had covered whatever the latest inputs that is required for the market as well.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you. So thank you all. Thank you. Mathri, how many feedback did we get? Did we get feedback?
Yes, we have received it.
Yeah, so those who have not given, again, a sincere request, please share your feedback. It's always help us to come back much improved for the next sessions, and we'll see you soon again. Most of every week that come into our session. So thank you.